we've been hearing issues surrounding, the whole tensions in Ukraine, Russia, how the tankers are just, on the borderlines, just patrolling. I think that's kind of like to scare people off, or to just let people understand the powerhouse and the capabilities of the Russian. And recently we saw this video of the president Putin, addressing President Macron on how everyone should be careful and this and that and everything. But then that's an international matter, and the global village would definitely want to, express interest in some of these things. But let me start with Mr. Akeem Adeniyi Ajayi-Taiwo. Who's you're a postgraduate medical student in Ukraine, and for some time now, it's been building up over the years on how the African community is growing in terms of destination where one needs to go, acquire education in terms of the medical field and everything. Can you paint a picture of what is like living in Ukraine, studying, working as an African?
Thanks for the question you asked. One of the first thing we need to address is what is driving students to come to learn in the Ukraine. I think Ukraine as a destination for African students has a historical context. If you remember, in the 70s and 60s, many of the earlier African, who I would call the pioneer Africanists, wanted to turn away from the West and look towards the East because of their communist system, which they feel it will be more beneficial to the Africans compared to the Western style, which is still professing some sort of systematic slavery at the time.
Right.
So they provided free education for a lot of the earlier African medical practitioners back then in the 70s and the 80s. Some of the earlier freedom fighters actually came here to study medicine before they switched to political science. So they have a very good system, and I would say the quality of their practice will be more exemplary for what people will go back home to meet in Africa,
right,
as opposed to the Western system whereby it's very, very machine-based. They've developed a system that navigates the requirement for heavy machinery and heavy testing to cut costs, but at the same time without jeopardizing efficiency. So a lot of Africans will be familiar, will resonate with that, and the cost of the fees are cheaper as well, and compared to going to Canada or Eastern Europe or to Western Europe. So to answer the second question you asked, life here for an African person or student is not easy. They don't speak English here much. They speak Ruski, and a small portion speak the Ukrainian language, the indigenous language. So the society is not too well accustomed to Black people as well. So they are not racist, it's just ignorance. They wouldn't have historically been used to a lot of Black people. You still come across few people that have never seen Black people before.
Wow.
So we can say we are the ones now that are showing them the different part of the world. So, right. And having an influx of Black people in the numbers we have now will probably have started like maybe 10 years ago.
Okay.
Or less than 10 years ago, if I'm gonna be more accurate. So it's still early days in terms of exposure to people of African nature in Ukraine. So it's tough. The weather is a challenge, and there is no strong community as well. And on that note, I would like to just link that on to the role of the embassies. The embassies are just, for me, in my opinion.
We will get to that part along when we continue with the conversation. But then before we get there, before we get to the community, the strong community as you made mention of, I just want to, just go straight just go grab the bull by the horn when, as a matter of fact, when it has to do with the issue of the tension between Ukraine and Russia. Basically, you people are students there. You are an African community volunteer. Definitely, you'd be very much concerned about your students because everybody's concerned about themselves. I mean, we've seen the superpowers, the United States. They have evacuated their diplomats, and that's a cause of worry per the president of Ukraine. Clearly, you as an African student studying in a foreign land, you would be worried about yourself as well. People back home will be worried about you. Given the imminent, threats of war, right? What has happened or what is happening with you, our brothers and sisters in the diaspora?
Well, I can start and then I can pass it on to my colleagues here. It caught everybody unaware, to be honest. Of course, we know what happened in the Donbass region, which Russia annexed, and that was a bit of a skirmish. It wasn't even an all-out war, so people that were there ran towards the inner lands, away from that border side. So they will see a bit of trouble on that side, but it's on a small scale. But this escalation happened overnight. Everything was calm. Everyone was going to their school, through their businesses and everyday routine, and all of a sudden we found ourselves here, and there's a lot of apprehension. There was a lot of pressure, a lot of tension. People didn't know what to do. There was little time for people to really put into the context. So a lot of people are still dealing with the anxiety till now. And from me as a local volunteer, it's just to try and see how we can get a list of people in case evacuation is necessary. So we're compiling like a register of residents that are here. I would have been more involved with the Nigerian group because the Ghanaians were already have a community, so they already had like an organization going on. We didn't have that, so someone needs to swing into action to get all these names, numbers, next of kins numbers, just in case it comes to that. And we also started a platform where we share information as to what's happening, what's the updates to keep people informed, and to also spread the message of calm. And to keep people together and to keep them updated as to what's happening and to plan for a contingency move in case things get to that. But I have other people on the line as well who were doing other things to try and help in this situation with sports and.
Okay. Yeah, you were going to make a statement on the embassy. What's that about?
Yeah. So actually, I probably just want to say that I actually didn't come from Nigeria. I didn't come here from Africa. I came here from Europe.
Right. Okay.
So, but I will always see myself as an African, no matter what passport I carry. So the issue for me was that even before things got onto the escalated stage, as it is now, we've been having communication from the two other passports that I have, apart from the Nigerian passport. The British government, the British consulate were keeping us abreast with what is happening on a daily basis. People were getting calls and people were getting emails, pack a small bag, put money in their passport and all necessary documentations, And I was looking around and I was very cautious. I didn't want to pass unknowing information to my colleague, but this is what we are getting from the embassy. So then I called the Nigerian embassy to find out what's going on. So that's when I actually discovered that there's actually no contingency plan for people here, and there's loads of Nigerians that are staying here. I know I have information from my Ghanaian counterpart that they actually have a link to the embassy, which is direct. So there was a problem as well with the Tunisian. There was no Tunisian embassy as well in Ukraine, and the Tunisians are they are in limbo of what to do. Should what come? So and I'm only one person. So through the other Mr. Rio, me and the other guys. So we talked about what we could do. So, we needed to have like a register of people that are here. So we know, because the embassy does not even know how many Nigerians are in this region that we are staying in, especially, not to talk of the whole country.
Right.
And I don't know how many African countries have this problem because people are coming in here. Someone needs to take inventory. We need to be able to account.
Very true.
There have been issues whereby our brothers have been maligned through all kind of malicious sources, and nobody stands up to ask a question about what happened to our citizens over there. So we have this, we inaugurated this register where we're collecting names, numbers, next of kins here and in Africa, in case anything happens. So even if the embassy fail in their duty to us as citizens, at least we know the
You have
United
record.
Nations will do
Yeah.
something, and they're gonna ask for a document. How many of you are there? Do you have a register? We can present that to them,
Right.
and then they can use that to draw up a plan to help us, because we must first help ourselves.
Right.
So it was after, in that process, I called the embassy, then talked to the ambassador to say, look, what are you doing for us? We are here. We have this number so far and rising. Then they started to say, we will see what we can do. I will come and match. If the ambassador is promising to come and match, and problems start now, what are we going to do? So I'm not trying to expose anybody, but we must say the truth as it is. You get what I'm saying? Like, it has to be said.
Yeah.
If not for the likes of Mr. Oriyomi that provides football, which helps people to cope with it.
Yeah.
It was said earlier that some schools gave good straight directive that they are not allowing students to travel.
Yeah.
But my school, on the contrary, said to us, the British embassy and many of the international students, the embassy, they should follow what the embassy said, which is to leave immediately.
Right.
That was what my school told all the students. So there was mixed information as well, and there's mass hysteria, you know. So people were looking for outlets, looking for information, and looking for what is happening. What do you do? What do I do? And I felt like the Nigerian embassy especially failed citizens in that regard, because it took them a week after the whole thing has intensified, because they sent the link for people to start registering on the national register with the office in Kyiv. Well, how many people are in our area? You know, right. So we did that, and that's what we did locally. But it could be better in terms of the diplomatic moves.
Right. I think that should definitely be looked at. I mean, it wouldn't be really safe or convenient should such a situation, you know, really escalate, and then there wouldn't be any plan B on how to evacuate citizens. You're talking on the case of Nigeria. I mean, of course, one of the popular countries in the world that you wouldn't want to expect stuff like this, but it is happening. How much more countries that are not of the same level capacity as Nigeria, as an African country. Akeem, being an African community volunteer and a leader, what you've spoken passionately about how you think most of the consulates, I believe, should operate and everything, especially the fact that you're not really there from an African country, you're from the Europe, but you're an African. What would you like to see being done? What action would you like to see being taken, and by what, and from what organization? Looking at the ECOWAS, the African Union, which organization do you want to see take what action?
I think it's the African Union that needs to lead the march. And why I said that is because they've got a youth representative on the African Union. And it's a shame that when situations like this come up, there is always a reluctance in all this, including the West African Union or US African bloc. Everybody is looking to each other to do something. And from historically, we know that many of these countries don't take unilateral action unless things get worse. So I just feel like when these kind of situations occur, whether in Ukraine, whether in France, Germany, or America, you want the African Union to at least make a statement to say we have Africans over there, and whoever is the host country or whatever countries are involved in the hostilities should take responsibility for protecting this group of people. Because as we know, when the war comes, we are not going to get special protection. And we are one of the people that will need special protection, given the geological location of this particular region. And we also have information from what happened in the Donbass region about what happened to some of the African students that were over there. Many of them were rounded up and used as what I can call pseudo-slaves, because the soldiers that were there, or whatever they are called, little green men, were using them to fetch water, wash their kit, clean stuff. Some of them were told to bail themselves with money before they were released. And many atrocities like that went on, which nobody has ever put on fire till today. And I just feel like the African Union needs to start adding this to the agenda. People need to be protected. Americans, we go because of one citizen. they will go and make sure every citizen is accounted for. And if there's one left behind, they will make a plan to get them out. I have been contacted by the other embassies who have been very proactive. I don't see that with Africa. Almost all the African embassies doing that. And if they can't do that unilaterally, they can also band together and tell the EU to do something.
Absolutely.
That's my point of view.
Okay. Thank you, Akeem Adeniyi Ajayi-Taiwo, a postgraduate medical student in Ukraine who's also an African community leader.